All right, time for my review of the Alienware X17 versus the Legion 7i. Note that I am not a laptop reviewer. I like building desktops, but I have bought both these and I thought it'd be useful to have a kind of a comparison between the two of them. I don't feel like doing a full-blown video with pretty graphics and stuff like that, so it's kind of be a talking head as I walk through these two laptops. So bear with me on that. Not a reviewer, so I don't have any formal process and other things to compare against, so apples to apples here. I try to test them in similar environments, or if I take a look, you'll see that one clearly outshines, and here's a little flaw because I can't see the buttons. I turn them on. I think that just looks way neater. Just me and my friends are like, oh, you're gonna like Alienware more because of the ring on the back side, but the problem is the ring I can't ever see. Here's nice, all glowy going at once, where yes, back here, I got this sitting on paper so it's an even, the monitors look even to each other, but yeah, with the lights, I would say with the RGB on, the Lenovo definitely looks a lot cooler. They just did brighter lights. I like the ring out here. It just kind of makes it pop out more. I believe this has the hello function turned on. It has the hello, Windows Hello. I don't use Windows Hello because I don't use a password until I should decide to keep one of those, and I'll log into my account then. But I just don't want to put my information on there yet. What else down the list? Bezel, obviously. This is much thinner here. When you look at the size of it, it does make it look cleaner and more modern. When you have that small size with this, you have a bigger ledge, but I don't know if that matters to you. This obviously looks a little bit more professional, so if you're more towards, I want something more business versus something more gaming, I would say. I'd say this is more spaceship looking than gaming, but definitely lean towards that. Keyboards, so I did not get the mechanical keyboard. I was looking at different builds over and over again, and when I went to actually order it, I forgot to click the button. Wish I wanted to get it originally, then heard history, some people noting that they've been having issues with it, so I'm glad I kind of didn't have that. I also want to use this next to a sleeping fiance, and not having this being much quieter is probably better. I'd say typing experience, pretty similar. I find that I type on this one better. For some reason, my keystrokes are more accurate, where here I feel like I'm having missed keys at times. I'm not sure what's going on with that. You'll notice this is not a full keyboard. This is a full keyboard. Some say, oh, I've got to have a 9 key for work. I'm an accountant, a CPA. I've been using a 10 key for the last 20 years as a part of my job. I can tell you, this thing is not big enough to be remotely useful. It's just they sacrifice too much narrowness on this. My hand goes right off it. We're on a normal 10 key. My 4 fingers line up on the 4 ones. And right here, I'm actually off completely on 1 finger, and the 3rd finger's on, not even on numbers. So I would say for work, if you use a 10 key, this is useless to you. I would just buy a separate 10 key. I'm not gonna use a 10 key on this laptop. If I'm gonna be doing work, I'll be sitting at my desktop where I have a proper keyboard going on. Function keys, comparing the keyboards, obviously Lenovo is way better. When I hit this function, it lights up the exact keys that do things, which is fantastic. I can change my fan profile. I can change my, I don't know what some of these do, but I can change my RGBs with this. I can see the top row all lit up, which is great, but not the case with, I'm gonna turn this back on because it's just prettier with it on. There we go. Not the case here. They do not light up. They had that in the promo videos, but didn't actually exist. I really wish they had. That would be fantastic. I noted on typing, media keys. These are kind of nice that they're out to the side. Some people said they wouldn't like it. I think they're great right there. Here I find myself hunting up here, and I don't like searching the top bar, even if it is lit up. I like this over to the right. And I find that even though these aren't lit up, I'm starting to know where they're automatically at, so I'm not even thinking. It's like I know brightness is 10 and 11, F10 and F11. I just go to it if I want to adjust it. One thing I did note, they did send me a French-Canadian keyboard. Every review I think I've seen is at a similar keyboard, so anytime crunch, they're not using the keyboard other than having French words on it and some euros and pound signs on it. Doesn't impact everything. Everything's in a good place. Shift key has been 0 problems for me. I know that's been some other complaints. Speakers, I'm not gonna really speak to the speakers. They don't sound good on either one of them, but I would say equally not the best. Camera I don't use, didn't even test it, haven't even turned them on, probably never will use them. Touchpad, This I only use when I don't have a chance to grab my mouse. Obviously, you have the fun RGB here one. Both of them feel nice to use. This one I would definitely say on the Lenovo is smoother. It just feels nicer, but in a vacuum, you'd never notice that kind of thing. I mean, it is barely different. The way I use this, I'm not one who presses the button. I don't do that. I'm more of a tap when I do stuff kind of thing. So I find that this one actually actuates a little bit. It takes more pressure. So when I find that I tap, nothing really happens when I use it. Where here when I tap, there's a little sound because I'm actually starting to utilize the click. So I don't like that. This one I find I'm not having that issue at all. Where this one I can sometimes get that noise. I'm like, hit it softer so I don't get it. But click-wise, they're very comparable. I mean, it's a keypad. I never thought about that, but I know it's a talking point. Upper left doesn't work. Upper right does work. Upper left doesn't work. Upper right doesn't work, but bottoms are all good. And if you like the RGB, it cheers you up. That's perfect for you. Size, obviously it's bigger, but I don't know why you would need huge. I guess my hands aren't wandering enough to matter. I'm generally pretty good at finding the same space, so finger rejection, both of them are fantastic at finger rejection. I don't think I've once had the keyboard, the keys or the mouse jump on me when I was typing. That's great. And so yeah, talked about finger rejection. Oh, one last thing, no finger rejection. However, I did notice that if I would go AFK or I would stop hitting buttons for a second, say I was primarily using my mouse and I came back and hit on the keyboard, there was definitely a delay before this one started sensing. It was almost like it was waiting maybe for a mouse click. And it's like, did you really mean that? Oh, you did. And then did the movement. For this one, no matter what, it was straight into the movement each time. So I was like, other things that I guess I haven't talked about is the I/O in the back. I guess I/O is up to preference. I haven't noticed really a difference. They seemed very similar. The only nice thing is that that's not lit up right now, but normally when I go back, those are lit up. Not sure why they're not lit up. Maybe I probably turned an option off. Function R. Function U. There it is, function U. That's what it does, light this up. It's nice. But here, I already know this is where my USB connection is. I've already learned the spot, so I guess if it matters to you to know back there, you're periodically hunting, that is nicer, but they're very similar. Ease of assembly. So I've opened this up to add the hard drive. Really easy. Was worried about opening my first laptop, not a problem. This one I have not opened up. I guess it can be a little bit tricky with taking these plastic parts off, but I'm assuming once you do it once, you're good at it. So I wouldn't be too stressed about that. Being that I'm gonna have to maintain these, I want to get used to taking these apart eventually, just because I'm gonna clean it out and clear out dust, because otherwise that's going to drive me crazy. Obviously size matters here. I mean, there's very distinct difference in size. Got these running and he's going to yell at me when I close them down, but I'll close them down. You can easily see that there is a significant size difference between these two. When I line them up, size, you know, I'm going to primarily sitting on my couch with it, and I would say that if I sit down on my couch and I've tested this out, I'm like, oh man, this is small. It's compact compared to the other one. The problem is when I sit down with this on my lap and start working on it, I don't notice how big it is. And when it comes to the screen, I think I haven't touched on yet. Oh no, we're gonna get the screen next. So that's weight and size. You know, if you're looking for something more compact, obviously this will fit in bags that this won't fit in. I mean, sorry, this won't fit in some bags that will. You probably need to get a special bag for it. So it's out there. Weight-wise, I mean, we're talking under 10 pounds. If it's really gonna be that hard for you to deal with, then I would definitely go with the lighter laptop, because they're both very heavy laptops. Monitor-wise, this is the 4K, this is 2K. I've been running a lot of the tests set with the default resolution at 1K, because there is sometimes spy issues with the 4K monitor, that's known. But I default run it at 2K just to keep the speeds up, and being that I can't tell eye-wise, the DPI is already higher than a 4K 27-inch monitor that I work with day to day. So this is plenty fine. It keeps the GPU working less. Aspect ratio, I just love the 16.9. That's one of the things I know when I sit down with it. Yes, it's a little bigger, but man, do I love the panorama view versus this tall and short view. And you see here, it's actually cutting it off. So it's not even, you know, when you compare these tests, this is actually probably processing less data between the two of them. You probably can't see this, but to get a feel for it, that's running around the high 60s, and that's running around the mid 60s. So when we get to the performance, you'll see why there's a difference there. Brightness, I would say they're about the same. They're equally cranked up. This one is bigger, so it's throwing off. I think this one gets brighter. In HDR, it definitely resolves more. Oh, I got a storm going, so beware, that's gonna be popping in there. HDR videos on YouTube look better on this. I can just resolve more detail. Not as good as my 4K 1000 nit monitor, but it's still very good. Color-wise, this is also much better. The color on it is fantastic. This seems washed out next to this. Still good color, but is not as good as this. It's just a better color monitor in my experience. This is default calibration. I have not played with the calibrations. I have a Spider, but I just haven't had time to plug those in with everything else going on. I did note that this at 4K, playing on the internet, if I left it at a 4K resolution in Windows, would definitely heat up the GPU more. Another reason I leave it at 2K is just to keep the fan off. When I do that, the fan doesn't turn on when I'm just idling on the internet or not. But if that's on, the fan will kick on to deal with the heat from that, just having to push 4K in the videos and stuff like that. So, blacklight bleed. Neither of these had blacklight bleed. That was great. This one was a little tricky to test because I think Dell programmed it that when it sensed the black screen, it just shut the screen off. So I was like, oh man, that thing is perfectly black. Nah, the screen was turning off. But playing around with it, they both look good. I think this one was better in overall, but I had to catch it in that split second before it did it. But here, clearly the monitor here is a clear winner. It looks great. Fan noise, I would say that at full bore, identical sounding fan noise. They have, I would say, a little bit of a whine to it. It's not great. I would say that the whine on the X17 starts earlier at a lower volume, but once it gets up and running, it's about an equal whine. So like right now, this one is definitely louder, but yeah. Software, so the software in this, on the 7i, well, I want to back out of this. I got F4 out of this real quick. If you haven't seen it, it's much cleaner, not a lot of options to it. And you do not have, and it kind of goes to fan control, you don't have a ton of control of your fan. You saw those settings, but basically you can just turn on a couple options and that's about it. It's not a lot going on. This has a ton more control and a ton more options. Well, this has great, well, the 7i has a simplified software. It works fantastic. What I tell it to do, it does. This one, on the other hand, there are times when I will go to turn it off and it doesn't turn off, blasting loud. Or it gets backwards. I put it on quiet, it goes loud. I put it on loud, it goes quiet. It's like, what are you doing? Are you delayed on what's going on? And I've got basically a restart will fix it. It's a little frustrating. I think it's because I'm playing with everything so much and I'm popping in and out of the software. It does not like it. Do not leave the software running. That will cause the laptop to heat up. That's another thing. I do not have IQ on this at all. I just uninstalled it immediately because I don't plan on messing with the RGBs. I think that if I did, I'd turn it green. It's my favorite color, but I think that looks cool. I can go with the default, no problem. Yep. Overall Windows performance, both of them are very, very snappy. I think this is, I think at this point when I start videos stuff like that, it's snappier than my my PC downstairs, a 7920X. That's water cooled. That's the reason. One of the reason I have a laptop is to have something to work on while my main PC is down. If you like custom build water cooling, check out the other videos on my channel. Oh, one other thing I noted about this on the 7i, there are times on the 7i where it would randomly turn programs off. It only happened like 2 or 3 times. And like, I don't think I clicked off, but you just would shut down something. No blue screen, no problem, turn right back on. Wasn't overheating, wasn't anything. It just clicked it off and I went, oh, all right. That was a little weird. It's settled down now. It hasn't done it for about a week now. So I don't know if that was just it doing updates and just rebooting things on me when I wasn't noticing, because it's still periodically I'll be running benchmarks and one will be like, update is complete. It's like, oh, right, I just got to throw all those numbers out. So performance, I think this is what everyone's been waiting for. We're at 22 minutes. Oh man, am I going long? Performance-wise, we got to talk about the biggest issue with the design of these two. This one is using a very large vapor chamber. This one is using a small vapor chamber. I'm sorry, I'm going to need to point because you're not seeing it. The 7i has a very large vapor chamber. The X17 is a small vapor chamber on the CPU, and then heat pipes. Vapor chambers per Dell are the best way to go with laptops. If you see in their interviews, they say that, but they're more complicated and more expensive to make. So guess what? We get heat pipes in the X17. I'm very disappointed with that. Lenovo, for a cheaper price, put in a massive vapor chamber, which based on the numbers I've ran, does absolute wonders for initial temperatures. I don't know why they chose to go with something cheaper than that, but they just elected to do that. What you'll see is the results are when this thing initially gets heat, the whole vapor chamber, especially on the CPU, sucks up all that heat. So the initial temperatures on the CPU are very, very low and slowly grow. On here, it just hammers the red line over, hits thermal limits and downclocks, and you get less performance. On all the CPU, no matter what I did for these, no matter how I threw it at it, the 7i always won. Best case scenario, I might see a 3-4% lead in the 7i, but with heat soak and on average, if I just popped open Cinebench, no matter what I was doing between the two of them, ran them, it had about a 5 to 6% lead on average. I'm not going to talk about scores in the video, but I will post them down in the descriptions, the test I did and the comparables I did. There's not much I can say more about that on the CPU-wise. That vapor chamber did great. On the flip side, on this GPU, which is not going to be these short tests where the system's ramping up, it's going to be longer term test. The X17 won every time. I think there may have been ties. Set to identical settings, identical resolutions. This would either tie or win in every example. And what's interesting is this doesn't have the mux switch on yet. You know, when this has the mux switch on, it's going to gain a much higher lead. I was seeing at best case 3 to 4% higher on the X17 than the 7i. With that mux switch, I can see it really getting up there. And that's the other reason why I'm liking this. This is the better monitor and that additional performance. So for my use case, it kind of coming down to the end of it is which one am I going to keep? I've got to return. I've got to basically until Monday to make my decision because that's when the return time frame will pretty much have run out on the X17. And I believe I'm looking towards keeping the X17, barring anything weird going on. I'm like 95% sure I'm going to keep it because of, while it does have heating issues on the CPU side, the GPU side just rocks. It is performing better. One thing to note, the X17 runs hotter than you'll see in my other videos, than the 7i. It is pumping more power into the system, which seems to be resulting in just better overall results on the GPU side. I don't know why that is, but it's just how it's working out. I think one of the things they note is the heat tubes that they do use are better at sending heat a long distance. Once heat soaked, it's good at dumping heat out. So I think that's one of the reasons. I'm disappointed though in the CPU results. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to test out some improved thermal paste. I don't know if that X31 is worth anything, but I'm going to test that out if I do keep this one. And then I'll probably test out some liquid metal as well to see the improvement. I know everyone complains about a Dell because you got to put a damn new thermal paste on you buy them to get it the performance. I think this is still the case out of the box though. This thing's performance is unbelievable, but the edge is going to the X17 because of the monitor and the aspect ratio, and I just love the finish and feel of it more. This feels like a special laptop. It feels like something unique, and you're not going to see very many of them. This is just another professional, boring, I won't say boring, I mean it looks great, fantastic, futuristic, but it would blend in with every other laptop out there. And maybe that's a good case. If you're going to be taking this to work and you don't want people asking you questions or lugging it to class and be like, what the hell is that? Not that, but for me, it'll be something I'm going to enjoy. So we're going to test that over here now. So here we have on the X17, we see the temps had a chance to cool down a little bit, so it's not as quite as heat soaked. When I go into Cinebench and I hit run, you're going to watch these. Let's wait for it to get going. Up and running. Come in here. Look at that. I am pegged on all my temperatures. It is dumping so much power into that CPU that it's instantly throttling back. See, I'm losing it so fast. Now, the fans haven't kicked in yet. I should check which. I had a thermal because I wanted to turn the fan off. I apologize. Let me put the performance on. Either way, it normally does not immediately throttle up the fans when it senses that there is a workload going. It actually throttles up nice and slow as you hear it get up and going. But independent of that, you'll see that it hammered away to full. Now we're throttled down to 4,000 as it finishes up the run. And this is where it goes back to. The 7i will beat this every time. You see it here, it's actually fully ramping up. And I might get a score. Yeah, that is I started off in a lower power one and I had that software open, so clearly that hit it. Usually finishes in the 14,000 range. Best case 14,500. I don't know what was going on. One of my first pictures that I ran with this, I actually had a 15,000 with it. I've not been able to repeat it. I don't know what magic was going on, but I'm going, and that may have just been initial lucky runs, maybe a little heat pump. Maybe the Element 31 isn't good. I don't know. I've never been a fan of stock paste on anything I've gotten. I've always built my own computers for the last 20 years, so that may be the case. I would like to get this run in so you can see what I'm talking about, because I think this is a big thing and why this performs so well in these benchmarks. Oh, I'm going to check something. Function. This is the other thing. This works cleanly. Oh, am I hitting the right one? I'm not. There we go. It's auto. Okay, so I'm going to set it full. And let's check the temps. So here, that is up and running, but you see it's not hammering the cores. I think I had it set to auto, not to full. It's not hammering the cores right off the bat, so we're not throttling as much. And you see it's finally coming up to, you hear the fans kicking in, but look at it, it's still sitting with very reasonable amounts. And this thing is still churning along. Now the fans are getting up. Things to note, also, this, when it is at full fan on its auto mode, it doesn't have a full fan option, but full fan sits around with the sound mic right about here at around 55 to 56 decibels. This sits around 52 decibels, so it is slightly quieter. However, if you go full fan speed, which I didn't run test in full fan speed because that's not how I would use it. I would never just, I'm gonna crank the fans up to full and then do something. I would just let it ramp up on the performance mode. So all my tests were done on both, and the performance is gonna ramp up. So you'll see that one's actually messed up. So I'm gonna run it again without messing with its things going. I can run this again, it's gonna run, and you'll see in the test I've done before, it is consistently around 15,000. I am just amazed at how consistent they made this 7i work, and that vapor chamber just keeping things so consistent. It's really impressive. This one can't even try to do that because, I keep saying this one and I'm pointing. The 7i is impressive in what they do. The X17, it just heat soaks. The heat pipes, that little vapor chamber just cannot hold the heat out. I think the thermal interface is just not good. I'm hoping with a liquid metal or a better one, it's going to perform better. The GPU side though, works great temp-wise. It does run hotter. The X17 across the boards, when I'm looking at the GPU and the CPU at the end of the days, it's running hotter. I think it's getting more power, but it's getting more performance in gaming. Here is not the case. The 7i is the CPU runs better no matter what. So this is going to finish up with a little more normal score. Well, that's just not a normal score. Well, he's acting off now too. You can quit at this point. I'm just going to be rambling for a little bit longer as I go, but this thing is almost always good for a 15,000. That's why I'm so confused, and maybe I just need to do a reboot. Maybe something else has popped up, but again, here you're seeing that it's going, but those temps are not getting crazy. Actually, I think this is locked up because those aren't even changing. Now, there they go. I need to give that a reboot because he is acting a little funny. Well, this one's consistently getting in the 13. Here it did 1365, but I think if I run it with it not having me opening up a program and then shutting it down, and I also have HW info open. Usually I don't have that on. I think this one's finally not weird. I don't know why that reset to an overclock. I'm going to check this one's overclock. I'm going to check the X17's overclock when I'm done. But I'm going to see here what this finishes up at. Yeah, there's his normal performance. I don't know. Have not restarted it since I just finished up those Cinebench runs. And for some reason, maybe that was the Intel thing. Maybe that wasn't the laptop. I'll be curious to see what this did, because if this has an overclock on it, that is clearly going to cause heating performance issues, because this one, despite doing that, look at those maxes it got. Barely tickled thermal limit, designed perfectly in that short run, just to tickle thermal limits, but keep performing. I mean, if you look at the max, it got up there. Here, I hear the fan kicking up again. There's the 14,000. If you look at my numbers, that's what I was usually getting using this setting. I hit 15,000 at one point with the full fan on. You do get, I believe, more power when you hit the full fan on, but it is significantly louder. You just probably heard that cool down, but if I turn it on, you can hear it really ramps up, and that gets up to 57 decibels when you crank that up. So that does make a difference. And I'm gonna check right here real quick to make sure you guys are seeing, yeah. So that one saved the -65 and everything else, equal power limits to give each other a chance. So, ooh, confusing, there you go, kind of thing. So, all right, that's all I'm gonna do. So that's kind of the wrapping up. I hope I didn't miss anything. I will have more descriptions about the performance down in the description. If you have any questions, please bring it in the comments. If you have some videos you want me to do, if they take a lot of testing, I'm kind of running out of time and kind of sick and tired of comparing the two versus just enjoying and playing video games and just not stressing about which one I want to keep, because it's been a really hard decision. These are both great laptops. The analytical part of me wants to stick with the 7i because it wins all of the CPU scores handily, and it hangs in there with the GPU. The 2K monitor is the perfect size and perfect resolution for what we have going on here. It's got that advanced Optimus, but at the end of the day, the fit and finish of this one just feels better. Holding it, the monitor is better quality. It can go to 4K if I want to, if I ever sat really close. Refresh rates, we didn't talk about that, but they're in the same boat. Anything north of 120 for me is fantastic. The color on this one is just better. It wins in gamings and everything I compared it to. So based on that, I think I'm gonna keep the X17. I like to tinker with stuff. I've used liquid metal with water cooling and seen amazing results on the CPU. So I'd be curious what I could push this to with that, because I would love not to be thermal throttled and be able to actually push it harder. I can turn this down because we don't need to listen to it roar, kind of thing. So, and then, yeah, that's what I take. That's what I think I'm gonna go with the Dell for right now. So I'm gonna return this one and keep this one and maybe have a couple more videos. Like I said, if you have any questions, I might be able to make some videos, but hopefully not anything crazy along those lines. Oh, the one thing I didn't show, I think, is the bricks. Let me compare those real quick. Clearly, this is a serious size difference, especially in the thickness. I'm hoping that they come out the redesigned smaller one, because that would be great. I would definitely jump on that immediately. So, all right, well, thanks for popping in and watching. Sorry for going so long, kind of a rambling head. So have a great one. Thanks, bye.